Greetings and welcome to another edition of the Red Pill Diaries. They let me back on. Oh my God, they let me back on. That's all I can say to you all. Thank you all for joining me on each and every platform. First of all, give me 1 second to pull up the thing. I need to see something real quick. All right. Shout out to the people who are in the Rumble. Hold on 1 second. The mic is up over here. Boom, the mic is up over here. Let me mute that real quick. Okay, for the people joining me from Rumble, thank you. For the people on YouTube and all of the platforms that we'll be streaming on, the Red Pill Diaries on YouTube, the Red Pill Journals on YouTube, Twitter, Odyssey, Twitch, and Rumble. Thank you all for joining me again. I want to bring something to your attention. First of all, I want you all to continue to pay attention to my number count on the main page. And you'll see as it goes up, once it goes up a little bit, it'll drop a little bit. It'll go up a little bit, then it'll drop by 20, 30 subscribers or whatever like that at a time. And you can see that for yourself today. So you'll know that I'm not making this stuff up. Go check this out on the main page. Now, our show today is titled Crash and Burn Politics of the Declining West. Ooh, whoa, that is a mouthful. You know, shout out to everybody who's joined. I'm going to check the chat out in just a minute. But I wanted to address a few things that are going on right now around the world that some people have addressed a little bit of, but there's multiple things that are unfolding right now that when they all start unraveling faster, you'll see the empire collapse at breakneck speed. And I'm telling you this, it will be like breakneck speed. See, let me tell you something. Before we go into this, let me tell you something. When we look at the demise of the American economy today, and we look at the degradation of American society and Western society, and we look at the total decline and collapse of Western society, we often look at what's right here present in front of us, because that's all that most people are familiar with, because we are that microwave people that want something right now, and in the last few days we'll forget. If something else comes up, we'll forget it. Okay. But look, when we look at the collapse of the Western world, and we look at the collapse of American power, her influence, her economics, and her military, this did not just happen by chance. It did not come about through the attack on Syria, or the attack on Yemen, or the attack on Iraq, or the planned attack on Iran, or the attack on Russia through Ukraine. These are byproducts of the collapse. You understand? For you to understand just how deep down the rabbit hole the collapse goes, and why we're seeing the leaders with irrational thinking and irrational policy initiatives, is because some of them understand that what is going on is systemic. It goes to the very core of capitalism. It goes to the very core of Western exceptionalism, and it goes to the core of Western culture. Okay? Remember that this is a predatory-based system. I know people don't want to hear, but this is the truth. The Western dominated model of governance is a predatory system by nature. Okay. So now, if one were to just look at one event or two events or three events, you would still not understand the depths of the collapse. You understand? When we go back and we look at how America was robbing her currency, as I told you on one show before, everybody talks about America taking us off the gold and the silver standard in 71, which is true, and which is a monumental moment for the collapse of the Western world. But prior to that, 10 years prior, well, let's see, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 6 years prior to that, America had already been robbing her currency of the silver. Again, as I explained to you, that's why after 1964, when we go into 1965, you find no quarters and no dimes that have a silver content, right? and then you go from 65 to 70 or 65 to 69, and your half dollars and your dollars coins, I'm talking about, then have no silver in it. This thing has been in motion for a long time. Thermite, economic thermite was laid at the base of Western economics because of greed, corruption, racism, exceptionalism. So what happens when you take all the restraints off a rapist? He goes on a raping spree, right? What happens when you take all of the restraints off a murderer? They go on a killing spree, right? If you do that to a thief, you remove all the cameras and all of the watching eyes and put them in a store with very expensive goods. What happens? They are overcome because that is what they do. And they can't help but to do what they do, right? So these leaders who have been portrayed to us as these monumental presidents and prime ministers and leaders of nations were sociopaths. They were corrupt, inept, greedy, racist, right? And what we're seeing today is the twisting of the snake, as I gave you the example before. When you have that snake and you cut off that head, the body is yet to understand that the head has been chopped off. So it contorts and twists for hours after the head has been cut off. The head is still poisonous. Sometimes they have to bury the head because of the poison that is still in the fangs, so that nobody would, by chance, brush up against it and become poisoned. But the body still contorts, the muscles still contort. And then rigor mortis sets in. And then there's no more contortion. It's just the end of what it was. We're in the contortion stage of the collapse of American empire and the collapse of Western governance globally. This is where we are. And it dates back long before 71 and long before 65. Because America had taken the world off the gold standard multiple times. Do your research. She defaulted on her debt multiple times. But when she had the advantage in gold and silver, and the world was watching, and they said, listen, if we're going to do this, there must be some type of trust base laid at the base of the system. So the trust was the gold, the silver, and the commodities. America removed that because she needed those constraints removed so that she would have a free hand to print money so that she can go on her escapades around the world. Again, when you allow a thief into a building full of valuables, what does the thief do? It goes on a stealing spree. When you see a whole bunch of people on the street and a person have bloodlust in their eyes and in their heart, and you take all the constraints off of them, what do? They go on a murdering spree. Well, they took off the political and economic constraints on American empire. And she went into a spending frenzy. And it's not just confined to America. Great Britain did and is doing it. The European Union has done it and is doing it. And now the ramifications are so enormous that in their mind, that exceptional mind, if I can't rule, I'm taking the world to war. I'm telling you, this is how they're thinking. Let's go to something, because all of this connects. And man, I'm telling you guys, I miss talking to you guys. But listen, if for chance that I'm not on the air for a week straight, check all of the social platforms, because I'll probably try to do a free stream on Patreon or Twitter or Locals, and I'm still trying to get the handles of that Locals and Rumble. All right, I'll be doing it over there if they suspend me again for just foolishness. All right, but I want to go to something. Let's see if I can pull this up real quick, because this is very important that we understand this. All right, here it is. Let's see. There was an article published. When was it published? December 2nd, on Saturday. And this article was titled, We are near that inflection point. Billionaire Ray Dalio warns that America is now borrowing money to pay debt service, cautions that debt will accelerate just to maintain spending. Or now what is that? That's caught in that catch-22. I got to rob Peter to pay Paul, and then once I pay Paul, I got to double back around Paul and ski mask Paul so I can pay back Peter. So I'm caught in this vicious cycle of robbing, stealing, and pillaging so that I can stay afloat myself when all of the world is becoming wise to me pillaging, robbing, and killing. And for me to stay afloat, I need their gratuity. I need their benevolence. But they're waking up to the fact that it is me, America, or the Western world, that has been robbing everybody and continues to do so, right? Dalio, I got to read the headline again because we're going to go to something with this, okay? We are near that inflection point. Billionaire Ray Dalio warns that America is now just borrowing money to pay debt service. Now, before I read the second part of that statement, I want you to, for a minute, let all your prejudice and all your pre-notions about what things are and what they should be, I want you to push them out the way for a minute. I want you to, let's think about something, okay? Unbiasedly. If you had 5 credit cards or 10 credit cards, right? And you were spending an enormous amount of money to keep your household afloat every month, and you've been doing this for decades, right? And the debt burden, you take in $1 million, but you've been spending every year $50 million, right? And this has been going on, and I'm just giving you an example, for 30 years. I don't care what you do, the debt situation has become untenable. Do you understand what I'm saying? Now, a lot of people understand this because a lot of people go through this. I remember when I didn't understand credit years ago, and I'm going to talk about that, especially in the Black community, about not understanding credit and not understanding how to handle money. I will address that because I must admit, when it comes to Americans, Black Americans are those at the tail end of that understanding. Okay, now. And I was spending it. I was using credit cards, and my credit was bad because I didn't understand credit. Now my credit's real good. Put it like that. Anyway, so I didn't understand it, and I'm spending it. I'm like, man, I'm young. I'm a young guy at the time, hanging out with my friends. We're going off, and I'm spending money left and right. We go out of town, rent cars, to go to the games or to go to the martial arts tournaments and all that stuff like that. By the way, the Bar Combat, one of the best martial arts you'll ever be a part of. Shameless plug. But anyway, so I'm making this amount of money, but I'm spending, whoa. And so as a teenager or a 20-year-old, I'm looking at this, I'm like, how am I going to pay this back? And so after a while, you become so wrapped up in the situation that you're in and you see no way out that you say, you know what, I'm just going to spend it. They're going to have to get it like they're going to have to get it, right? And it messes up your whole future outlook until you get clarity on that. Well, America has been doing that nonstop since she became the number one power in the world. She has been spending, and her spending has outweighed her income by leaps and bounds, okay? So if you are a credit card user, a credit card holder, and you make $5,000 a month, but to keep your household afloat, you're spending $8,000 a month. How do you think that's going to work out for you? When interest rates continue to go up, gas continues to go up, your car note goes up, your mortgage payment goes up, but your real wages decline. How do you think that will turn out for you? Huh? Without a thorough understanding of this, you put yourself in a position that will be dire to not only you in your economic future, but to the economic future of your loved ones. Okay? So Ray Dalio says, billionaire Ray Dalio warns that America is now borrowing money to pay debt service. Cautions that debt will accelerate just to maintain spending. And that's what people do. They pay the bare minimum, especially in this day and time. They pay the bare minimum on the credit card, but they continue to use it. You pay a $50 minimum or whatever it is. I'm just throwing a number out. A $50 minimum, and every week you're spending $300. Pretty soon you're going to max out that card, and then the other card, and then the other card, and your credit will be shot, and you will not have credit worthiness, right? And then you're in a whole nother ball game. So Ray Dalio is giving us a picture of what America is doing, right? And so let's read this, and I'm reading this for the first time with you. I'm reading this for the first time, and I'll check the chat in just a minute. Thank you for joining me on all of the platforms. I really, really appreciate it. All right, thank you. So where is it at? Where did it go? All right, it says the article is by Jing Pan, and it says America's national debt is currently closing in on a staggering $33.74 trillion. And according to Ray Dalio, founder of the world's largest hedge fund, Bridgewater Associates, that number may continue to rise quite rapidly. Now, why am I talking about this when all of these wars are going on? Because all of this is interconnected. You understand? Desperation, when a person becomes desperate, they do desperate things, not really thinking about the major blowback or the consequences of their desperate actions. Okay? When a person has lost all hope and they see they're about to get kicked out of their house and their family will be on the street, and they become irrational because they've exhausted all methods to get money to pay that mortgage and to keep their family in that house. And so you have this good Samaritan over there, and they know that that person has money in that house. And they left the front door open because they were just walking down the street like they normally do in this good neighborhood. Well, that person might be tempted to go over there into that house and take some of that money that does not belong to them, because desperation breeds desperate actions and desperate deeds. Okay? Hold on one second. I got to take this. Hold on one second. Yes. No. That was my daughter. I'm sorry. She was calling me. But anyway, desperate actions, desperate situations breed desperate actions. Desperate because you've lost all hope. Okay. Now he says, we are at a point in which we are borrowing money to pay debt service. Now here's the kicker. If that is the case, that the United States now must borrow more to service her debt just to stay afloat, then what rational-minded, sane-thinking person would continue to push tens of billions of dollars in discretionary budget spending to Ukraine, Israel, and these covert color revolutions around the globe? It's insane. Why would you antagonize the very nations that you need to buy your debt, to keep you afloat? Why would you go and rob the mortgage lender, who's also responsible for your car note, who's also responsible for the loan that you have and everything else, and you go out, you protest in front of them, you throw a Molotov cocktail through their window, and you expect them to continue to keep you afloat? Is that sane? Is that rational? But this is what the leadership continues to do. So it says, let's see if we can get this here. It says, rich young Americans have lost confidence in the stock market and are betting on these. Well, that's an advertisement, excuse me. It says the hedge fund legend explained that if a country's debt were to grow faster than its income, its debt service would be encroaching on its spending. And if the country wanted to maintain its current level of spending, it would need to get more and more into debt. So you are willing to get the economic, cultural, and political gun, load it with the bullets, put it up to the head of the citizenry, and pull the trigger. Now, this is Russian roulette we're talking about, but every chamber is full. So what chance do you have of surviving that? This is where America now finds herself. You understand? So he goes and says, listen, because we're going to see what he's talking about this inflection point. He says, that's the way that works. It accelerates. So instead of you putting your foot on the brakes, instead of you putting the car in park or putting the car in neutral, you see the cliff over there. And it's a canyon that's about 20 miles wide, and you're in a small, one of those small little cars, and you're saying that, hey, if I go fast enough, I can make it across. Instead of taking 6 hours around, I can just go straight ahead and I can just make it across. Tell me how that ends up. It says, he added that the problem is exacerbated by America's internal political issues and social conflicts. Remember what I told you? That this would cause anger to rise up in her midst. When Americans in America remember that they were the beacon of the world, and they start thinking about the freedoms and the privileges and the things that they once had, and this will cause anger in her midst and will lead to revolution and war at home. This is what he's talking about. I've been telling you guys this stuff. It goes on and says, Dalio is not the only one to point out the connection between U.S. politics and fiscal health. Moody's Investor Service recently changed its ratings outlook for the U.S. from stable to negative. It warned that continued political polarization in Congress may heighten the risk of lawmakers failing to achieve consensus on a fiscal plan to slow the decline in debt affordability. Now, let's go to the dictionary for a minute. You know how we do on this show. We empower you. We want you to understand the meaning of words so that when people talk to you, they're not talking over you at somebody else. So that you can understand exactly what they're trying to convey. Okay? So Ray Dalio tells us what? In this article, what is the main part of the headline of the article? We are near that inflection point. That inflection point. And according to the dictionary, the words or the phrase inflection point, which is a noun, means a point of a curve at which a change in the direction of curvature occurs. To put it more bluntly to you, it says, in business, a time of significant change in a situation, a turning point. So what we're at now is a point in American politics, American culture, Western politics, Western culture, American finance, Western finance, that we have turned and we are now entering the no way out zone because of the unbridled, unheard of debt. America's the number one debtor nation. She's the largest debtor nation in the history of the world and has not cut spending. If she cuts spending for social programs, for education, which lays at the base of her society, which is this is dynamite to her society, and I'll explain in a second. But she cuts there and says we need to cut here and cut there, and then she continues to blow up the military budgets, while the veterans get little to nothing from that. It all goes to the MIC, the military industrial complex. So how do you think America can go on? And the reason I say education, it is education proper education that guides us. It is proper education that enlightens us and removes us from a stage of savagery into civilization, right? When you start defunding the very institutions that are responsible for enlightening the future generations for the progression of your nation, you are dropping a nuclear bomb at the base of your society, because that pushes you back tenfold while other nations are running to catch up. And then they start to catch up, then they lap you. That's what's going on with China. So China's the problem. Russia's the problem. Iran's the problem. Venezuela's the problem. It's never the politicians in America. It's never the MIC. It's never the deep state. It's always someone else. And yet America continues to push these same irrational, insane policies. But it's everybody else's fault. Everybody else. Remember, in business, a time of significant change in a situation, a turning point. The world is reaching a turning point. That's why you see the rise of the BRICS Plus, the Eurasian Economic Union, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, right? The ASEAN plus China, the African Union, the Latin Union of Nations, because they are fed up with a biased, racist, parasitic system that benefits so few at the expense of so many. You understand? Hold on one second. Let me check the chat out. I gotta go to the chat real quick. I'm sorry, everybody. I couldn't. My YouTube thing was flashing in and out. I was trying to wait for it to stop flashing so that I can go to the chat also. So I'm trying to multitask. So you all please forgive me. Let me go to Kid Bronx. Shout out to Kid Bronx in the chat over in Rumble. Thank you for joining me. Thank you. And shout out, Musa. Shout out to Musa and the UK. Shout out to the UK for those of you who are trying to enlighten yourselves about the situation at hand. All right, I appreciate that. Now, where is it? Joel, salute Joel. My guy Joel is in the building. Holly is in the building. Salute Holly. Pedro, you still there? Pedro, this cannot be right. Hold on. There's no way that you don't have a wrench. No flipping way. There you are. You got one now. Anyway, so we're looking at these things, but what they want you to do is compartmentalize these things so that you don't see the connecting points. All of this stuff is a big puzzle. All of these lines that are drawn, if you don't connect every single dot, you don't see the big picture. That's why they compartmentalize, because they don't want you to look at the big picture of what is going on. This is a universal change that is underway. Think about this. I want you to think about this. Put this on your brain for a minute. America, the most powerful and the most extensive empire in the annals of 5,000 to 6,000 years history, right? America, the richest, the most influential. And look at what is happening. She's now in total and utter decline. Her predecessor, the UK or Britain or whatever, is in utter and total decline. I often say when you look at Britain or the UK, you're looking at the United States and vice versa. Mirror me back. Look at the growing homelessness. People having to choose between paying mortgage or paying heating bills or buying food or paying for gas or paying their car note. This is what is taking place in the so-called wealthiest nations on the planet, the so-called G7. And they're continuing to make the same mistakes over and over and over again, which is what? What do I tell you all? It's insanity, right? So that just bears witness that the leaders are insane. And not just the leaders, the system. Because listen to me good. You have all these politicians that spring up through the system. And then when you look at their policies and you dissect the policies, you find little difference in the policies. Even the Trump. Let's look at this. Trump, they say, didn't start any new wars. That is a lie. Yes, he wanted to pull out of Syria, but then he also tried to blackmail the Syrian government. That gets left out. He said that we would pull out if you guarantee us a portion of the revenues from your oil and gas sales in perpetuity. Think about that. Strong arming you in your own house. The assassination of General Soleimani, that was an act of war. Right? But then when you get down to it and look at the policies, they were similar to some of Obama's policies. And then when you look at Biden's policies, Biden has doubled down on some of Trump's policies. And he is a bigger spender in the military than Trump was. So now you have to ask yourself, if the system is just, then why does the system continue to produce unjust, inept, corrupt leaders? It has to be something wrong with the system too. There's a sickness in it. And all who play a part of that system gets infected with that virus, with that sickness. Remember all of the promises of Obama? Change and this and unity and all of that stuff. Did he live up to it? You know he did. You know he did. So, again, if we continue to be on this merry-go-round, you have to not only look at the politicians, you have to look at the system that breeds the politicians. You understand? And because it's so corrupt, it is an impossibility for the system to be changed or to be modified. They've tried it over and over and over again, and look at where we have come to right now in this day. We're at the brink of thermonuclear war. There's growing homelessness and poverty everywhere. There's disagreement. There's and now we don't even talk over the disagreements. We fight. I remember I was listening to some interview that was given, and I'm gonna butcher it a little bit, but it was given on Sputnik International, right? It was in an article. They had a couple of videos in the article, and then in one of the videos, one of the guys, I think he was a Russian politician, he was being interviewed, and he was talking about, they asked him about the current situation and climate between America and Russia and Russia and the West. And he was talking about, and I got it saved. Man, I wish I would have pulled that up. He was talking about how even at the height of the Cold War, diplomats were adults, and I'm paraphrasing, and even with differences, they talked because they knew that not talking could lead to unintended consequences. And he said, and I was like, I had to rewind it about 6 or 7 times to make sure what I heard was what he said. And what he said was what I heard. And he said that at the diplomatic level, the U.S. and Russia don't even meet. He said they meet on a park bench. He said the United States has thrown out all diplomatic norm, and they meet on park benches. And then, and when they meet, the United States meet to dictate, not for diplomacy, to dictate. Man, I wish I could remember that. I'm gonna search that. Oh man, I got it saved in my computer. I don't know what. So again, think about where we are. Think about that. Where you have people who are supposed to be representatives, ambassadors, or emissaries of a certain nation, And they are now acting like children, little kids. Huh? That's crazy, right? That's absolutely crazy. And this is what we have to go through on a daily basis. Hold on one second. Let's see if this thing is updating, because YouTube is tripping. Yeah, Joel, I see that. That's right. Pouring out old wine and new wine bottles. Yeah, that's what it is. So the system has to be replaced. A lot of you don't want to hear this. The system has to be replaced. And those who belong to the system have to be removed. Do you hear the manner of speech of Joe Biden whenever you can get any coherent sentence out of him? Do you hear the dogma that comes out of the State Department, the White House, the Congress, and the Pentagon? Do you hear the dogma coming out? These people are lunatics, and they repeat the same thing. They might modify just a little bit, but they repeat the same thing, and they continue along the same lines that is dismembering the Western world. And Britain goes right along with it. Why? Because she's tied to the hip. A lot of people think that Britain is in this servant position, right? But it's not so all the time. Remember, Britain never fully gave up on its colony, so they have their operatives here, and that's why, again, you have the New York Stock Exchange tied to the London. You have the Gold Exchange tied to the London Gold Exchange. London's Gold Exchange is the world's #1 exchange, not the United States. And he who controls the money controls what? So, again, we're entering a time unlike anything before. And let's go to something. Jamie Dimon, the one who helped push this crisis. This is what he had to say on Business Insider. This was November 28th, okay? And then, where did the article? All right. The article is titled, JP Morgan boss Jamie Dimon says the U.S. is addicted to debt and it's created a dangerous sugar high in the economy. Now, what's significant about that? Huh? What is significant about what he said? If you go back to a year ago and you listen to what I was saying, I said almost those words verbatim. And Peter Schiff said something similar to that. And Gregory Mannarino has said something to that. And then I want to ask you, did we come over to Jamie Dimon's side? Or is he now realizing that the jig is up? And so he's trying to cover his own behind by saying some things like that of truth. It says, where's the article at? I just had it. And I haven't read it. So it says the U.S. is practically addicted to debt. And that's put the economy in a dangerous position, according to JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon. He wasn't saying that when he was asking for them trillions in bailout, was he? Huh? It's only after he got the money is he talking about the United States is addicted to debt, right? Oh, boy, I tell you what. Now, I want you to, here we go right here. All right. According to the dictionary, the word addicted is an adjective, and it means physically and mentally. Listen to me good. Physically and mentally dependent on a particular substance and unable to stop taking it without incurring adverse effects. You understand that? Let's read what Jamie Dimon said again. The U.S. is practically addicted to debt, and that puts the economy in a dangerous position, according to JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon, which he's saying to you and I, but he don't want to say it in these terms. But the word addicted means that someone is physically, or something is physically and mentally dependent on a particular substance. What is that substance? Debt creation, the printing of dollars, and unable to stop taking it without incurring adverse effects. If you don't think that's the case, then why are they wrangling over the debt ceiling? Huh? Why? Why are they wrangling over the debt ceiling? Why are they always having deficits? Why? It's because they'll tell you, they'll say, well, if we don't raise the debt ceiling, we'll default, we'll do this. Well, what is the debt ceiling for? If you knew that prior to, and you knew that the debt ceiling was X amount, why did you spend up till that? Why don't anybody ask that? And now you're moving the goalposts again. You never stick with the debt ceiling. That is supposed to be your red line that you don't cross. And whenever you get close to it, you just move it. You move the goalposts. And you say, well, if we'll default on our debt, we'll default on this. Businesses are shut down. The government was shut down. What did that definition say? Physically and mentally dependent on a particular substance and unable to stop taking it without incurring adverse effects. Right? Is that not what we're saying right here, right? Oh, you know it is. Stop it. Y'all know it is. Come on, stop playing. Let me go to Rumble real quick. I got to shout out. Hold on 1 second about that. All right. So, again, this is where we are in the midst of collapse. It's chaos. Absolute chaos. And they want you to believe that everything is okay. Where is my let's see. Where is this other article? Found it. I think I found. Listen to this. See how I brought up Peter Schiff? Clicked on something. This was written 5 days ago, the story. Okay. All right. And you guys, I took some medicine, so it has my mouth dry. So I'm drinking a lot. And I haven't drunk anything during the daytime. So I'm doing this right here. So listen. The title of this article, which is published by MoneyWise, and it is showcased on MSN.com, is titled, Crisis is Assured. Crisis is assured. Just before we go any further, just think over that for a second. Crisis is assured. Right? Now let's go to the dictionary. The word assured is an adjective also. And it means confident. It says guaranteed, certain, sure, secure, reliable, dependable, solid. So what they're telling you is that the crisis that they see coming, there's no way out. This thing is guaranteed. It's a certainty. It's for sure. It is secured to happen. We have reliable mathematics that point towards this crisis. And our mathematics is dependable and rock solid. Right? And it says, crisis is assured. Famed investor Peter Schiff says U.S. rates will remain much higher forever. Here's what that could mean for you. Now, I've never read this before. American stockbroker and financial commentator Peter Schiff isn't feeling positive about the U.S. economy. With inflation proving sticky, hovering at just below 4% in recent months, he believes the Federal Reserve is likely to keep interest rates higher for longer, right? He says, what's missing from the higher for longer interest rates narrative is that it's actually much higher forever. So, oh man, forever. So what he's saying is that the system needs to continue to do what? Print debt. Why? Because to stop printing debt, you know how addicts, when you're trying to reform an addict, and you take them off the street, you take them out of the crack house, or off the morphine, or off the what is it? I don't even know all the drugs out here nowadays. What is it? Heroin and all of that stuff. You take them off that, they start having the shakes. Their body, their body chemistry starts rebelling because it needs that fix. And they start, some of them go into all kind of panic. Some of them go into all kind of convulsions. Some of them, the body just starts attacking itself because the body needs that high, that craving. And that's why you see a lot of them relapse, because the craving becomes so strong and they fear the effects of not getting that craving. That's why the thing says, when it talks about addiction or being addicted to something, it says unable to stop taking without incurring adverse effects. They cannot stop, or boom goes the dynamite. And when you listen, when you print debt, that means that you need debt to constantly expand, right? So that means you have to look for different markets, different regions, different nations to expand into, whether they want you there or not. Your existence, your position depends on you being there. And so what they do, they latch on to a nation. They can vilify, demonize, they can bribe, they can scam, they can color revolution, they can wage war, do anything to get in there. And you say, America, bring the troops home. We can use that money to do X, Y, Z. What money? The reason they went there is because of the debt trap. And now they must expand elsewhere and elsewhere. And they're talking about aggressive China. And listen, aggressive China in Asia. Not in North America, in Asia. Aggressive China in the South China Sea. Not the South American Sea, but the South China Sea. Aggressive China. And her debt trap, when it was Europe and America that laid the debt trap for the entire world. And you're finally getting nations pulling themselves up by the bootstrap out of colonial debt traps. Hell, Haiti is still in debt to France for rebelling against France's colonialism. Do you know that? That's why Haiti is in the condition that it's in. Because the European courts ruled in favor of France, talking about they lost billions and billions and billions because the people didn't want to be slaves no more to make rum and rubber. This is true. So they saddled Haiti with unpayable debt. And what's worse is this. They continue to create chaos in Haiti because they did a study and found that Haiti has huge amounts of mineral resources, oil and gold and gas off its shores and all of that stuff. And besides that, the CIA and the MI6 and the French intelligence and the German intelligence and NATO intelligence uses that area, Haiti, as the transportation center for their drugs in and across around the world. That's what they do. That's how they move their shipments from west to east and from east to west. So they cannot afford a stable Haiti. Right? Yeah, thought so. So let's go back into the matter of fact. Hold on before we go further. I see the chat. Let me go in the chat real quick. Oh, come on, YouTube. Let me go in the chat real quick. And everybody, if you hear the noise going on, we're having a movie thing up front, and they are really, video game. I say movie thing. They're up there on a video game, and they are really, really playing. Okay, we're in here. All right. So let me go here real quick. I want to make sure that I'm giving everybody my attention. Yeah, so Solar Bear, they don't care about the debt. You know why they don't care about the debt? It's because they understand that this is that 3-card money, right? This is that house of cards. So they're going all out. And that's why they're pre-positioning weapons and warships, warplanes, and the most destructive weaponry ever on the shores of everybody else. You know what? Just there was an announcement that America is now talking about stationing. Now they didn't mention a nation, but stationing mid-range ballistic missiles in Asia. Why? Who is stationing missiles in North America or in South America against you. Do you see the exception? This is what I'm telling you. You guys, you gotta look at the things for what they are and not for what you believe them to be. Look how aggressive this is. Remember that America and Russia almost went to nuclear war in the 60s because Russia responded to America putting her Pershing 2 missiles or 3 missiles in Turkey and in Germany. They were nuclear armed cruise missiles that would take roughly 10 minutes to hit Moscow. So Russia, in response, deployed nuclear weapons to Cuba. They leave that part off. And because Cuba is between 95 and 105 miles, whichever way you want to look at it, from Florida, America embargoed Cuba, put a naval blockade on Cuba, demanded that the Russians remove their missiles because it was a threat to Russian national security. American national security. But they never really thought about Russian national security until Russia said, you move your missiles. You want us to move ours, you move yours. See, who's the aggressor here? Like, man, let's talk a little bit. I haven't talked to you guys in a while, so let's talk a minute. So they bombed people in Iraq. A paramilitary group, the PMU, right? Part of the Iraqi Hezbollah. The U.S. says this was retaliatory for them shooting missiles at the base called Al-Assad up in northern Iraq. But here's the kicker. How is that retaliatory? And how is that any justification for when you are illegal in Iraq? Remember, the parliament of Iraq voted for you to leave multiple times. Remember, the prime minister, multiple prime ministers, decreed for the total removal of American and coalition forces. So now, you fly your planes across Iraq, whether the government wants it or not. That's a violation of sovereignty and territorial integrity. That's a spit in the face of the government and a spit in the face to the people there. You bomb at will whenever you want to, and then you explain that you were attacking some terrorists. And these people are sick of it. So the retaliation came from them, not you. You just were the escalator. You did something that was escalatory. We have to examine what these people are telling us. Just like the Houthis. Let's do this. Because we're talking on economics, we're talking on military, we're talking on politics. When the Houthis attacked those the U.S. warship in the region next to Yemen, when the Houthis attacked the Israeli shipping cargo ships or whatever, this made the news, and they were talking about America will retaliate and when they see fit and this and that, and Israel bombed something in Yemen. Now I want you to understand something. You know why that happened? I know the Yemeni resistance say they want to support Palestine, but you know why that happened? Because the UK, the US, and Israel illegally are occupying territory. They are occupying the strategic island of Yemen, that little island that sits right at the open of the waterways, the strategic waterways that lead us up through the Arabian Gulf, up to the Red Sea, up to the Mediterranean. And what about this? What about the US, the UK, and Israel illegally occupying the resource-rich areas of Yemen? That hasn't made the news yet. They have multiple bases there. You know, I was doing something. Matter of fact, where is this thing? Hold on one second. I was doing something the other day, and something just told me right before I got kicked off YouTube for a week. And something just told me, just for habits, just Google something. Give me 1 second. Let me see if I can pull this thing up. Let's see if I still have it. Ah, there we are. All right, there we are. So I just put in how many bases, how many U.S. military bases are in the state of Washington. I'm talking about the U.S. territory, Washington state. All right. And they said that there were 7 military bases in the state of Washington, right? And you say, well, why did you Google that? I Googled that for a reason. Because Syria, right? Syria is the size of the state of Washington, U.S. territory. And so I wanted to see just how many bases were in that state. And so, hold on one second. And so I go back and I Googled, and there's dozens of U.S. bases or so-called facilities in Syria. Dozens. Illegal. Now you have a U.S. state that has 7 military bases, and you have a sovereign nation that the United States is occupying a third of that has more than twice the amount of bases that the U.S. state of Washington has. If that is not imperial, you tell me what is. Yeah. I miss y'all too. And so I was going to bring that up on the show right before I got the boot on YouTube. But hold on one second. What is going on here? Hold on one second here. All right. But let's see. I'm looking for something for you all. Hold on one second. Now this is what Peter Schiff goes on to say. He believes that the days of zero interest rate policy, or ZIRP, in the U.S. are over. Now, why did I go right back to this when we're talking about Syria, and we're talking about Yemen, and we're talking about Iraq, and we're talking about Ukraine and Africa and all of that stuff? You need money. You need money. You need money. What did it say? I got disconnected from YouTube. Hold on one second, everybody. Hold on. I know they're not tripping like that. All right, I'm back up. It says he believes the days of zero interest rate policy, ZIRP, in the U.S. are over. A ZIRP is when a central bank sets the benchmark rate to zero or near zero to stimulate the economy during and after a recession, such as the Fed did for years following the Great Recession. They don't like to say depression, but the Great Recession, and briefly during the pandemic. So right there, if the Fed did that during the so-called Great Recession and then briefly through the pandemic, then that means we had multiple years of recession, multiple years. And according to the definition, what is it? 16 or 18 months of a recession it turns into a what? A depression. Now, I didn't make the definition, but they like to say Great Recession. They hate to talk about the depression because they don't want to give you any ammunition about their insane policies, okay? Schiff further warns that if the Fed returns to ZIRP, it will unleash runaway inflation and implosion in the dollar, bonds, and the economy. Either way, crisis is assured. It's set. It is set. I'm echoing. See, this is what I'm saying. They are tripping. I'm YouTube. You are tripping. StreamYard. You are tripping. Seriously. You are tripping. Hold on one second, everybody. They are, man, I tell you what. Let's see how I do this. YouTube, you know you suck. Hey, am I still echoing? Joel, hit me up. Let me know if I'm still echoing. They are tripping over here. I'm watching the chat, and Joel says I'm echoing now. So, man, I tell you what, like the people were telling me over on Rumble, this is PooTube, not YouTube, PooTube. And they're pretty much right. It stopped. Okay, thank you, Joel. Thank you a million. He said it stopped. Now, think about the debt burden for America to be in such a bind with her debt. We know that credit card debt has reached over $1 trillion. We know that the U.S. interest payments on her debt is now roughly $1 trillion to service the debt. We know that she continues to borrow money. As a matter of fact, one guy said that the United States was borrowing $1 trillion a month. Matter of fact, give me a second. I know you're from Missouri. I'm going to show you better than I can tell you. Let's go down. Let's see if I can pull it up. Pay attention to this right here.
We're getting to the point now where I just wonder, and not to be glib, do the numbers even matter at this point?
It doesn't seem like it. Since the debt ceiling crisis came to an end just 3 months ago, we've added $3 trillion to the national debt. That's $1 trillion per month, and interest expense is now on track to be over $1 trillion per year on an annualized basis. And I think the more concerning part is on a trailing 12-month basis, tax receipts are down over 8%, federal tax receipts. So you had this situation where debt levels are skyrocketing due to spending, but also due to falling tax receipts. So it's kind of like a double whammy here. And in turn, I mean, you mentioned interest rates. The federal government's issuing record levels of bonds to cover this deficit spending. So we're seeing almost $2 trillion issued over this quarter and the next. And that, in addition to the Fed's rate hike campaign, is driving treasuries higher. The 10-year note yield, we think, is heading to 5%.
See? Now, here's the significance of that. The U.S. is forced now to spend more. That means she has to borrow more, okay? So now she's forced to borrow more. Guess who she's forced to borrow from? The very nations that she's deemed as her most pressing enemies and adversaries. She has to borrow from, believe it or not, African nations, Latin American nations. Some European nations are helping to keep her afloat. The Asian nations. But guess what? She's had some failed bond sales in the last few months. So guess who bought the debt? The Fed. So that is the dope dealer buying and smoking his own crack. How long do you think the dope dealer is going to be successful and be flashy and well-dressed when the dope dealer starts smoking his own supply? Huh? Tell me. How long do you think that's going to last? Because I'm pretty sure whether you black, white, brown, red, yellow, purple, green, or polka dots, you've seen or experienced somebody that had an addiction to a drug or alcohol or something like that, and you've seen how it had affected them. And the effects come quickly. So how do you think that's going to work out when the dope dealer starts smoking its own supply? Huh? We are watching the implosion of the Western world. I know a lot of people don't want to hear it because they want this, America will be the preeminent power. She'll be one of the great powers among them. No. Let's use common sense and rational thinking. If I'm the greatest debtor nation in the history of the world, and I live on debt and by debt, and my productivity has been completely or mostly erased. I have little to no manufacturing. I produce little to nothing but movies, guns, and dollars. All of which the movies people are stopping, going to see because they see it's propaganda in them. The guns, the weaponry that you sell, you force the people to buy. They're no good in battle. We see that with Ukraine. And the dollar. People are getting themselves off the dollar. So we're looking at a triple whammy, not a double whammy, but a triple whammy. And on top of that, your tax revenue receipts are lower. So you're taking in less, you're spending more, and you're continuing to borrow to supplement your stooges around the world. How do you think that will eventually work out? Forget that this is America. Look at what happened to Rome. Look at what happened to Babylon. Look what happened to all of the previous empires. When the spending got out of hand, when the arrogance got out of hand, when they became inebriated on the thoughts of the power and the influence that they used to have and they used to be able to wield. Look at them. Now you have to go into the library to read about them because they're no longer powers. Some of them not even viable nations anymore because of the ramification of becoming drunken on power, drunken on wealth, on military power. And it brought those nations, their kingdoms, to an end. America is not the exception to the rule. I know she keeps talking about she's the indispensable nation. And I know that she keeps talking about that she'll make it through this. Listen to me good. If we look at math, and we do the math on this, not what I believe, not what I want to happen, but the math on this. The math says that it is a mathematical impossibility for her to rebound financially. And if she cannot rebound financially, what about the politics? What about the military? Huh? Because all of them feed off the finances. Do you understand? I'm giving you a dose of reality so you're not caught standing up, running around chairs while everybody's sitting down. I'm giving you the reality of the situation, not this feel-good stuff that everybody, you notice how when you talk to people, they'll say, oh yeah, but this and this and this. Oh yeah, but. No, we're going to deal with reality. And if something happens that breaks that reality, then okay then. But you have, 10 years ago, you were at $222 trillion in debt, unfunded liabilities. The day we say what? Close to a quadrillion? Who knows? Who knows? We know that you have a bond market with what? Roughly between $2 and $5 quadrillion. I didn't say trillion. I didn't say hundreds of trillion. If you don't believe me, go listen to some of the earlier interviews I did with Gregory Manarino. Quadrillion. Put your mind around that. Quadrillions in the debt market. Because the bond market or debt or bets on debts. Yeah, I'm telling you, this is a casino. The bond market is bets on debt and bets on other debt and bets on that debt and bets on that debt. This is a casino. And right now, America's hitting snake eyes. She's crapping out at every shoot. Because there's a day of reckoning. There's a day of reckoning for everybody. Everybody. And no matter how much we want something to be a certain way, we always have to take into consideration reality. It would be something else if America was trying to change her ways, right? Matter of fact, let me go back to something real quick. It would be something else if she tried to change her ways. If she went to those nations and said, you know what, I'm pulling out all of my troops. Let's start this over. Let's try to do right by each other. Russia, we were wrong for doing what we did. Let's try to come up with some kind of agreement. China, we realize now that you probably will be the preeminent economic power. And what we're going to do is we're going to do like what Britain did, ride your coattail, what Britain did to the United States. And what we're going to do, we promise not to hinder your progress and your ascension so long as you don't do X, Y, and Z. Iran, we don't want to attack you anymore. We want to come home. We want to focus on internal problems. See, if she took that and the people saw sincerity behind it, then maybe they would give they would lend a hand to her. But all we hear is this with her: threats, propaganda, innuendo. And when things don't work out for her, she doesn't say, hey, I miscalculated. It's that person's fault. It's that person's fault. It's that person's fault. It's like a little kid. You know how you have the little bully in the neighborhood, and the bully runs up against somebody that smacks them, and then the bully goes back and says, hey, I got a busted nose. That person did this to me, blah, blah, blah. And it's the victim now. In reality, it had ruled as a bully until that kid came into the neighborhood. That's America. And nobody will sympathize with her because she does not show any contrition of heart for her policy initiatives that she continued to enact. Right now. Right now. Let's see something in a minute. Salute the MZ, salute. Right now, think about that. She shows no contrition of heart. She just doubles down. Right? Look at what's going on in Palestine. She arms Israel, right? Matter of fact, while she was talking about peace and allowing a pause, and people thought the pause was for the Palestinians. You'll learn. What did I tell you on the show? The only time America pauses or wants to negotiate is when it's beneficial to her, when she is the beneficiary of it. So for her to push for a pause for a few days, the whole world had a sigh of relief, and maybe we can extend this pause. That wasn't on the agenda for America. America wanted to let some of the tension off. And then she wanted to be able to have time under the radar while everybody was talking about the humanitarian pause and the prisoner swap and the civilian swap. She could then have, I think it was Norway, to covertly send F-35 parts to Israel, while America gives Israel bunker-busting bombs and powerful weapons to destroy tunnels underneath Gaza. That's what that was used for. That's what that pause was used for. It wasn't for the sympathy and because you had a change of heart for the deaths and the suffering of the Palestinians. That was not what it was for. It was to rearm, re-up, and then reassess the situation. And while doing that, you also get political pressure off of Israel and you a little bit. But all the while, you're arming Israel to the teeth. Oh, humanitarian efforts. What good is the humanitarian food? What good is the medicine? What good is the clothing and the water when one of those bombs are going to drop on the building, that house? One of the bombs is just going to strike the convoy that's delivering it. One of the bombs are going to penetrate through the tunnel network and destroy the stuff that they had saved just in case war broke out and they could feed and replenish their population. What good? I'm telling you, America's sly. She's sly. She had all of you all fooled. I saw it and I was shaking my head. I said, these people really believe that there's a humanitarian pause. They really believe. I was looking at all of the alternative media. They were talking about the humanitarian pause, and I was just shaking my head. I was like, they still don't get it. They still don't get it with America. When she negotiated those missile treaties, it's because she felt that she was at a disadvantage. It wasn't because she was seeking world peace. If you think I'm lying, go look at the writings of the history of each of the agreements that were signed by the Soviet Union and America, and look at the stuff that's released from the archives, and you get a sense of where what they were thinking and what they were trying to accomplish. They weren't concerned about whether or not you could survive a nuclear war. They were trying to buy time so that they can gain advantage in certain areas and then push forward. And if you think I'm lying, why did NATO expand all the way up to Russia's border then? Huh? They had to bide their time. They had to look as though they wanted peace. so that they can reassess, resupply, redeploy. That's what that was about. The same happened with the Gaza pause. That's what was going on. This is a fresh look at it. I know some of you, well, most of you probably didn't even think about that. Why do you think there was reports leaking saying that America was sending weapons and Buster? Matter of fact, hold on one second. Let me go to RT real quick. Hold on one second. Oh, let's see. Let's see if I can pull this up real quick. I don't even know the key word for it. US, let's see. US Israel. Hold on, let's see if I can pull it over there. All right, I'm looking. You guys give me a second. All right. Okay. Now, okay. Here we are. I see the one with Lloyd Austin. Let's see. Let's see if I can pull this up. The U.S. is giving them bunker buster bombs. I'm telling you this. Maybe if I just buster. Maybe it's on Sputnik. I think I might be. I might need to go to Sputnik. Yeah, I think I might. I think it's on Sputnik. Give me a second. U.S. bunker busting bombs. They were planning on doing this for a while. Yes. Israel. Let me put Israel in first. See if we can pull something up. It's not showing, but it's on Sputnik. I remember reading it on Sputnik. The U.S. is giving bunker buster bombs and to Israel, and they needed that time. They needed that pause. They needed that guarantee. See, look what they did. As they were shipping the stuff there, they had a guarantee that Israel wouldn't fly over Gaza, right? Israel wouldn't launch any attacks, and in return, Hamas could not launch any attacks. Hamas could not launch any attacks. So had they tried to transfer those weapons during the outbreak of hostilities, it would have been fair game. But they chose the time when there was a cessation of hostility to then transfer those deadly arms to Israel. You believe that was by chance? Come on, stop this stuff. Don't stop that. All right. But again, this is America. She doubles down on failure. She continues to go. I need to find it. Let's see if I can pull it up real quick. Bunker buster. See if I can pull that up. I need to pull that up real quick. Hold on, everybody, because I know I saw it on one of the platforms. Here it is. Told you. I know what I read. What are bunker buster bombs the U.S. allegedly supplied to Israel? And it says many of Hamas's vital assets in the Gaza Strip are supposedly hidden in an extensive network of tunnels and underground shelters. Israel, thanks to the help of its ally, the U.S. may have found the weapons capable of reaching these hideouts. Stop right there. This was done while there was a humanitarian pause. The transfer of these deadly weapons. So how, on the one hand, am I supposed to believe that you want a cessation of violence? You want an extension of the so-called pause. And you're arming these people to the teeth with the very weapons that they need to destroy my operational centers and my population centers that's underground. How is that? I'm supposed to believe that you are sincere about peace And you've already given them F-35s. You've given them the air defense systems, the missiles, the radars, everything. You've given them a budget to keep them afloat. You give them real-time intelligence. And now, because they have been going in those little tunnels and been getting slaughtered by Hamas, you say, hold up, maybe we can come up with a deal that will disarm them for a minute and help me to arm you to take them out in the very place that they have been winning at. So we come up with a humanitarian pause. It benefits me, it benefits you, Israel, because it gets international pressure off of us. And it removes that stigma that we are killing babies without any heart. You see? All the while, I'm unloading some of the most deadly and most powerful bombs that the Middle East has seen. You see? That's how it is. I'm telling you, that's how it is. Let's go a little further. Let me see if I can read a little bit more of that real quick. It says, the United States has apparently provided the Israeli war machine with munitions to take on probably one of the biggest obstacles Israeli troops have to contend with. That's what I just told you all. I just told you that. In the middle of this so-called negotiated pause, Hamas had to stand by and not strike any targets in occupied Palestine. They had to allow for shipping to take place. They had to allow for planes to land without striking them. And the one strong suit that gave them the advantage over Israel, and they were slaughtering Israelis, popping up out of tunnels, popping back down in there. And when Israel goes into some of the tunnels, they were losing dozens of soldiers. They keep this out of the news, you know. But the one thing that Israel feared the most during the humanitarian pause that was so-called brokered by the United States, America somehow transferred the one asset that Israel needs the most to try to destroy Hamas. Make that make sense? Huh? Talk back to me. Talk back to me. Make that make sense. And it says, listen, I'm going to read this to you. Among some 15,000 bombs and 57,000 artillery shells generously provided by the U.S. to Israel following the escalation of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict in October were 100, not one, not 10, not 20, but 100 Blue 109 bombs that are often referred to as bunker busters. The Wall Street Journal reports, citing unnamed U.S. officials. Okay, it says a Blue 109, Blue stands for Bomb Live Unit, hardened penetration bomb, is essentially a 22,000 pound or a 907 kilogram bomb that contains 530 pounds or about 240 kilograms of explosive material. With its thick steel casing and delayed fuse, Blue 109 is designed to penetrate deep into the underground before detonating in order to take out underground facilities, tunnels, and bunkers, hence the moniker bunker busters. Huh? This was done through a negotiated pause. Man, you cannot listen. You cannot trust these people. I keep telling you guys this. America will not yield. This is the thing that Russia has to understand. Russia has not, so far, has not gotten this. That America will not yield. They don't want any peer nations. Do you understand me? Because to be a peer means that she has to share the spotlight. She cannot have full authority over all global and financial issues. And this is unacceptable. What did Joe Biden say? In New World Order, we have to lead that too. Well, we see what you led the old world order to. What makes you think we want you to lead the new one? So she won't yield. She'll pause a little bit. She might sidestep a couple times through negotiations, but that's just to bog you down with paperwork and innuendo so that she can get herself together so that she can make her next move. That's what the empire does. And Russia needs to realize that because its existence is at stake. That's what China needs to realize. Its existence is at stake. That's what African nations, Latin American nations hate. And that's what even European nations need to understand. Look at what America is doing. What did Henry Kissinger say? Let me pull it up, what he just said. This is a quote from Henry Kissinger. You know, the war criminal who passed away, who used to be the national security advisor under Nixon. This is what he had to say about friends and enemies of the United States. And I quote, "To be an enemy of America can be dangerous, but to be a friend is fatal." I'm going to say that again. To be an enemy of America can be dangerous, but to be a friend is fatal. If you don't believe that statement, look at what's happening in Germany. The deindustrialization of the second largest Western economy in the world. The destruction of German economy, which in turn, listen, while America is doing that, she thinks she benefits from that. While she's doing that, she's weakening in her own hand. How can you think you can rule the world and take on other people by weakening the very allies that are supposed to have your back? And you weaken them in the worst way economically. And then we look at the reverberating effects of these policies by the growing unemployment, homelessness, and anger across Europe. These are friends of the United States. What did Kissinger say? To be an enemy of America can be dangerous. Look at Russia. Russia knows America is dangerous. Iran knows America is dangerous. Syria knows that. Burkina Faso knows that. Mali knows that. China knows that. But to be a friend is fatal. All right? And let's go to the dictionary real quick. All right? The meaning of fatal. All right? Fatal is an adjective also. It means causing death. It doesn't even get any deeper than that. Fatal, causing death. Okay? It says a fatal accident, similar, deadly, lethal, mortal, causing death, death dealing, killing, final, disastrous, devastating, ruinous, catastrophic, calamitous. So when you look at the policy initiatives that the global juggernaut America has put out against her own allies, isn't that a befitting statement? That's a befitting statement, right? To see that. Because we're watching it in real time. Nobody has to tell us that. We see it with our own eyes. We hear it with our ears. We smell it. We taste it. We feel it. All of the senses that God gave you, you can justify and you can bear witness that this is what is going on. You might not like it, but it's the truth. I suggest that you grow your pair and start learning to deal with it and better yourself and better your position, because the world that you've known, you will soon know no more. On that note, thank you all for joining me on the most powerful platform, bar none, anywhere on God's green earth. This is your platform for empowerment, education, motivation, and upliftment. This is the Red Pill Diaries, and I'm your host, Rashid. And I like to send out love and motivation to each and every one of you who love truth. But know that the love that I have for you will always pale in comparison to the love that God has for you. This has been a message from Mrs. Barbara's Legs baby boy. Hey, mama, your baby boy loves you more than life. Deuces, everybody. Thank you all for joining me. We out of here.